Our tonight's top story, Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program consolidation is extended until April 30. Meanwhile, Transport Group says consolidation deadline should be lifted.
3-month extension of PUB consolidation deadline is final. It no longer extends according to the transportation sector.
China urges the Philippines to meet in the middle to avoid tensions in the West Philippine Sea.
PIRMA debunks the irregularities in collecting signatures from voters.
And the dengue cases has dropped from December to mid of January, says the Department of Health. Good evening, bringing you the latest news for tonight. I am ALVINE PELOBELLO.
And I am KRIZZA LOPEZ. This is Eurotv News Thread.
The deadline for the franchise consolidation of the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program has been extended until April 30, 2024, following the approval of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The extension granted for an additional 3 months aims to provide an opportunity to those expressing the intent to consolidate but missed the previous deadline. Henry Nicolas with your story.
The franchise consolidation deadline for Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program or PUVMP of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or the LTFRB has been extended until April 30, 2024. Presidential Communications Office announced on Wednesday night that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has approved the extension for franchise consolidation under the PUVMP, granting an additional 3 months for the consolidation of public utility vehicles. This extension is to give an opportunity to those who express intention to consolidate but did not make the previous cutoff. In a statement, the LTFRB said that they'll adhere to President Bongbong Marcos' directive to extend the consolidation of public utility vehicle or PUVs. Agency also encouraged operators and drivers to take advantage of this opportunity provided by the President. Meanwhile, Manibela Chairman Mar Balbuena extended his gratitude to President Marcos. Although he considered that this is a welcome development, he emphasized that extension of the consolidation should lift. It is because there are a lot of technicalities in the implementation of PUBMP. In an interview, Balbuena said there are a lot of cooperatives submerged due to consolidation. He also insisted that House Speaker Martin Romualdez also promised him that the 3 months extension will not be the end of the story.
Talaga hong kailangan mag-modernize. Paano nga naman uusad yun? Basta ang sabi ko kay Speaker Martin Romualdez, iparating sa Pangulo, iparating sa ating Pangulo, na dapat po ay wala dapat deadline. At dapat po ay mapag-aralan po itong muli at dapat po higit sa lahat. Sabi natin, yung mga gustong mag-consolidate, nag-consolidate, gusto pong mag-modernize, hindi natin pipigilan sino tayo para pigilan sila.
This is Henry Nicolas for Eurotv News.
In related news, the Department of Transportation emphasizes that the 3-month grace period approved by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is sufficient for nationwide driver and operator consolidation as part of the PUB modernization program. DOTR Secretary Jaime Bautista notes that the extension allows agencies to enhance PUBMP implementation with 76% already consolidated and clarifies that unconsolidated jeepneys can still operate until April 1 if their franchises remain intact. Vanessa Cleopas tells us more.
The Department of Transportation or DOTR stressed that the 3-month grace period given to drivers and operators nationwide would be enough to consolidate. That is part of the PUV modernization program that the agency will do. That is related to the approval of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on the extension of the consolidation deadline until the end of April. In a press conference attended by DOTR, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB and the Office of Transportation Cooperatives or OTC, Transportation Secretary Jaime Bautista said that their recommendation to the President, which he approved, was based on the percentage of unconsolidated drivers and operators, especially in Metro Manila. The Secretary also added that some groups of operators and drivers expressed their readiness to join the program and process their requirements. Bautista also said that the 3-month extension is enough for all those who are still pursuing the consolidate and join the PUVMP, which will help the country a lot.
Ito na ang final extension. No? Yung tatlong buwan ay is I think enough time, no? Para doon sa mga gustong mag-consolidate ay mag-comply doon sa mga requirements. No? Meron ding mga lumapit sa akin na grupo, no? Na gusto na rin nila. Ang sabi nila, hindi nila masyadong naintindihan yung programa, but ngayon ay naintindihan na nila and willing na silang mag-consolidate. No? So yun ang hinahabol namin. No? Yung mga willing mag-consolidate. Yung niyo po itong programa na to ay ginagawa natin, no? Para sa ikabubuti ng nakararami. No? Hindi po para sa ikabubuti ng mga employees or officers ng DOTR. Ito ay para sa ating mga mananakay, no? Para sa ating mga drivers at para sa ating mga operators.
The extension of the deadline for the consolidation will allow the DOTR and other concerned agencies to improve PUVMP implementation further once the consolidation is completed. LTFRB Chairman Teofilo Guadis III clarified that unconsolidated jeepneys can still operate on February 1 as long as their franchise are intact.
As long as they are registered, because the President has already issued the directive na ini-extend po nila yung deadline for consolidation. So, therefore, the LTFRB then will be giving them the confirmation.
Bautista also mentioned that he and the President discussed that they would allow PUV drivers and operators to form their cooperatives or corporation instead of joining the existing cooperatives.
At kahapon yan ang pinag-usapan namin ng Presidente. No? Kasi ang possibility that we're looking at is we will allow them to join existing cooperatives or existing corporation. No? But since the President extended it for 3 months, now we will allow them to form their own cooperatives or corporation. No? And palagay ko nga in 3 months time, they should be able to do that. No? Ang Office of the Transport Cooperative will help them. No? LTFRB will help them. No? And all the other offices of the OTR will extend all the assistance para makapag-join sila dun sa ating consolidation program.
On a final note by the DOTR, 76% have consolidated their agencies, which is enough to implement such a program. However, it can be increased with the 3-month extension given. Meanwhile, before the announcement of the extension of consolidation, LTFRB has set an inspection with the unconsolidated PUV drivers and operators that operate starting February 1 and will be considered as colorum. However, according to Guadis, they can still pass until April at the same time as the consolidation deadline is extended. Under the PUVMP, traditional jeep cannot renew their franchise if they have not consolidated or become part of a cooperative. Vanessa Cleofas for Eurotv News.
In other stories, amid the recent harassment of Filipino fishermen in Bajo de Masinloc, the Chinese ambassador to the Philippines urges the country to meet halfway. This is to avoid tension in the West Philippine Sea. The Defense Department recently issued a statement saying that China raises the tensions with the waters or within the waters of the Philippines. More details from this report. Chinese ambassador to the Philippines Wang Shilian has expressed his gratitude to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in relation to its statement on the Philippines' adherence to the One China policy. Ambassador Wang once again insisted that Taiwan is a province of China, something that the Philippines should not endorse as an independent country. Last week, President Marcos has expressed his gratitude to Taiwan's new leader for hosting nearly 200,000 Filipinos in Taiwan. On the other hand, Wang is also calling the Philippines to meet halfway to avoid the increase of tensions in the West Philippine Sea and to reduce the tension in the highly disputed area. Regarding the strong statement issued by Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro, Wang said, "We should follow on the directives of the President and not from any other officials." In the media night on Tuesday, Chodoro said that China is the one who are raising the tensions in the West Philippine Sea and insisted that the Philippines continues to adhere what is stated on the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. This also follows the earlier reports by the Philippine Coast Guard that Filipino fishermen are being harassed by Chinese Coast Guard in Bajo de Masinloc, an area that is clearly within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. The Department of Foreign Affairs, on the other hand, has filed another diplomatic protest to China in relation to the latest harassment of Chinese Coast Guard personnel inside the Philippines' territory. ALVINE PELOBELLO for Eurotv News. Stay tuned for more stories as we will be right back after a few commercials.
Mga kasikat, e-ere na po ang Eurotv News Primetime Balita sa Pinoy Extreme Cable Channel 217. Tuloy-tuloy po ang aming paghahatid balita at impormasyon sa inyong mga tahanan. Maaari nyo rin kaming bisitahin sa aming official website, ang eurotvph.com. Muli ako po si Henry V. Nicolas. Sumasaludo sa bawat Pilipino.
Mga kasikat, e-ere na po ang Eurotv Primetime Balita sa Pinoy Extreme Channel 217. Tuloy-tuloy na po ang paghahatid ng mga balita at impormasyon sa inyong mga tahanan. Maaari nyo rin kaming bisitahin sa aming official website, eurotvph.com. Muli ako po si Vanessa Cleofas, sumasaludo sa bawat Pilipino.
Initiative for Reform and Modernization Action, PIRMA, denies the bribing allegation while collecting the signatures. PIRMA executive stands firm that their campaign is clearly for the sake of the Filipinos. More details on my report. The People's Initiative for Reform and Modernization Action, or PIRMA, debunks the news about bribing Filipinos to get their signatures. According to Noel Oñate, lead convener of PIRMA, there is no truth to the money being given or bribed. They said they are genuinely promoting the People's Initiative for the Filipino people.
At yung pong mga kuro-kuro na nagkakaroon ng mga payola sa mga signatures, hindi po totoo yun. In fact, natatawa lang po ako, nakakatawa naman na meron daw, bibigay daw ng 100, may down payment na 50 pesos, tapos yung balanse na 50 pesos pagkatapos pumirma, hindi ba nakakatawa naman yun? Kaya Hindi po totoo yun. Wala pong ganun. Kami po ay nataguyod namin ang People's Initiative dahil yan po ang gusto ng ating mga sambayanang Pilipinas.
It can be recalled that the assistance to individuals in crisis situations or AICs of the Department of Social Welfare and Development and the Department of Health were involved in handing out money to encourage Filipinos to give their signatures, something that Secretary Rex Gatchalian denied. Onyate also clarified that they contacted the congressman not to ask for support from gathering signatures but to avoid the bypass and find out their area of districts. Onyate was asked who in the private sector helped to carry out the signature collection, but he refused to reveal the names. The only thing that was certain was that it was from the sector farmers, fishermen, businessmen, and others.
Sa ngayon po ay confidential po yung aming mga contributors, volunteers, pero mga pribadong tao po lahat ito.
Despite the reports of the alleged giving of money, the head of PIRMA is confident that those who gave their signature know where the signature collected by the proponents will be used. Based on their experience, other Filipinos are open to a change, so citizens initiate giving their signature.
Basically, ito ay pagbabago ng ating mga batas para sa ikabubuti ninyo, of the voters, ay they welcome change. Any change is always palatable to the D&E market. Kaya masikasid silang pumipirma sa aming panukala kasi para sa kanila ang pagbabago ay ikabubuti nila.
The PIRMA believes that there is a great need to amend the economic provisions in the 1987 Constitution. Attorney Evaristo Gana said it will help the Philippines keep up with the modernization, especially in the territorial dispute, particularly in West Philippine Sea. This is KRIZZA Lopez for Eurotv News.
Japanese authorities are still investigating the case involving two overseas Filipino workers in Japan who are allegedly considered as suspects to the death of Japanese couple. The Philippine government, on the other hand, commits to assist the OFWs who have been arrested by the Japanese authorities. Let's find out more details in this report.
Abandonment of the corpse. This is said to be the reason of the Japanese authorities to arrest two overseas Filipino workers in Japan. Last week, Japanese authorities have found the remains of Japanese couple, namely Norihiro and Kimi Takahashi, inside their home. Hazel Ann Morales, who has already Japanese residency, was first arrested, and then later Brian de la Cruz was also arrested the following day. Morales earlier denied the allegations that she could be one of the suspects of the murder case. Meanwhile, de la Cruz has tested positive for the DNA test conducted by the Japanese authorities based on the blood samples obtained in the crime scene and was identified in the CCTV footages. The two OFWs are still in the custody of Japanese authorities. The Philippine government, on the other hand, have pledged to provide assistance to the arrested OFWs. According to Migrant Workers Officer in Charge Hans Layo Kakdak, the department sympathizes with the loss of the Japanese couple, as they also commit for an appropriate assistance that will be provided to the OFWs. These includes coordination with Ambassador Milen Garcia and the Philippine Embassy in Tokyo. Kakdak has instructed the Migrant Workers Office in Tokyo to visit the OFWs. Yesterday, Foreign Affairs spokesperson Maria Teresita Daza has confirmed that the Philippine Embassy in Tokyo have visited the OFWs. On the other hand, according to Foreign Affairs Undersecretary for Migrant Workers Affairs Eduardo de Vega, the Philippine government will provide a legal lawyer to the two OFWs. The Japanese government has its own judiciary system, but De Vega said that the authorities are still studying whether there is an indictment in the case of the Filipinos. The authorities in Japan are still investigating the said incident. ALVINE PELOBELLO for Eurotv News.
Despite the prevailing El Nino, the Department of Health, DOH, has recorded a drop in the cases of dengue infection in the country from December until mid-January. Based on the data from DOH, a 16% drop in the infection cases were seen during December in which cases dropped to 7,000 cases from the previous 8,000. Until mid-January, the cases further lessened to at least 5,000 infections. In line with this, the agency reminded the public to maintain and comply with the 5S strategies to destroy dengue: search and destroy, self-protection, seek early consultation, say yes to fogging, and sustain hydration. Likewise, DOH advised to practice proper storage of water to prevent the disease and to further adapt with the effects of El Nino, which will prevail on February until April.
On Wednesday, January 24, personnel from the Department of Social Welfare and Development's Field Office 5 has distributed family food packages worth over 400,000 pesos. The family food packs are being given to 609 fishermen from Sipocot, Camarines Sur, who were affected by the impacts of the shear line in the province. The DSWD Bicol Field Office commits to delivering relief aid to the LGUs or local government units affected by the shear line and the weather disturbances, while volunteers are repacking supplies in Legazpi City to ensure timely support for the affected areas in Bicol region. Some 21 volunteers from the Philippine National Police Regional Mobile Force Battalion 5 and the Philippine Air Force Tactical Operations Group 5 assisted the repacking of goods.
And that's the latest news for tonight. You may visit EuroTVPH.com for more news and information. Once again, this is KRIZZA Lopez.
You can catch our broadcast live in our social media accounts and via Pinoy Extreme channel. I'm ALVINE, and you're watching Eurotv News Thread. Stay safe and have a good night, everyone.